Princess Lyra had never felt so small in her entire life. She stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, surrounded by beings from 100 different worlds. Their eyes watched her with pity. Some watched with disgust. A few watched with something worse. They watched with the look of people who had already decided she was dead. Her purple skin felt cold under the bright lights. Her forearms hung at her sides, trembling slightly. She had practiced her speech 1,000 times on the journey here. Now the words felt like stones in her mouth. "The Velen Empire requests aid," she said. Her voice echoed in the massive chamber. "The Keth Dominion has destroyed 40 of our worlds. They have killed billions of our people. In 3 months, maybe less, they will reach our homeworld. They will kill everyone. Every man, every woman, every child." The council members shifted in their seats. They already knew this. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. The Keth Dominion was famous for one thing. They did not leave survivors. "We have tried to fight," Lyra continued. "We have lost. We have tried to run. They follow. We have tried to negotiate. They do not answer." She took a deep breath. "So I am here to ask for something that has not been asked in 3,000 years. I am asking for permission to seek alliance with the humans of Earth." The chamber exploded with noise. Beings shouted in a dozen languages. Some jumped to their feet. Others made religious gestures, warding off evil. The elder, a being so old that nobody remembered what species he had once been, raised one withered hand. Slowly, the noise died down. "Child," the elder said, and his voice was gentle but sad, "you do not understand what you are asking." "I am asking to save my people," Lyra said. "You are asking to unleash something that was locked away for good reason." The elder leaned forward. "Humans are forbidden. This is not a suggestion. This is not a guideline. This is the oldest law of the galaxy. There are reasons for this law. Terrible reasons." "What reasons?" Lyra demanded. "What could be so terrible that you would let billions die rather than break this law?" The elder was quiet for a long moment. "You are young. You do not remember the before times. None of your species does. But we remember. The old ones remember." He closed his eyes. "Humans are not like other beings. They do not think like us. They do not feel like us. They are wrong, broken in some way that makes them dangerous beyond measure." "Dangerous how?" Lyra asked. But the elder only shook his head. "The council will not grant your request. The humans will remain on their world, behind the barrier. This is final." Lyra felt something break inside her chest. She had known this might happen. She had prepared for this. But hearing the words still felt like a knife. "Then you are killing my people," she said quietly. "Not the Keth. You." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Nobody tried to stop her. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. Lyra traveled alone, in a small ship that could slip past the ancient barriers. She told no one where she was going. If she failed, it would not matter. If she succeeded, they would find out soon enough. Earth was a blue and green world, floating in the darkness like a jewel. Lyra had studied images of it, but seeing it with her own eyes was different. It looked peaceful, ordinary, not like the home of monsters. She landed in a city called Usol. The humans here looked so strange to her. They had only 2 arms. Their skin came in shades of brown and pink. They had hair on their heads, dark and black and sometimes gray. They moved through their streets like any other beings, talking and laughing and living their small lives. Lyra found the government building and requested a meeting. She expected to wait for days. Instead, she was brought to a small room within the hour. The man who entered was not what she expected. He was average height for a human. His hair was black and cut short. His eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they studied her with calm curiosity. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy. He looked like nobody special. "I am Do-Yon," he said. His voice was soft. "I am told you wish to speak with a representative of Earth. May I ask why?" Lyra explained everything. The war. The death. The council's refusal. She explained that she was willing to do anything to save her people. Anything at all. Doyon listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You want humans to fight for you?" he said finally. "Yes. We have been locked on this world for 3,000 years. We are not allowed to leave. We are not allowed to contact other species. We are not allowed to build warships." He tilted his head slightly. "Why do you think we would help you?" Lyra had thought about this question for the entire journey. "Because I am offering you a door," she said. "A legal door. Under galactic law, marriage between species creates a binding alliance. If I marry a human, our peoples become one in the eyes of the law. The barriers would have to fall. You would be free." Doyun's expression did not change. "You would marry a stranger to save your people. I would do anything to save my people." He studied her for a long moment. His dark eyes held something she could not read. It was not greed. It was not excitement. It was something deeper and quieter. "I will need to speak with my government," he said. "But I believe they will agree." He paused. "And I will be the one to marry you. If you will have me," Lyra blinked. Why you?" "Because someone must. And I am willing." He smiled slightly. It was a small smile, barely there. "I hope you do not regret this choice, Princess. Humans are not what you expect. We are never what anyone expects." The wedding was held 3 days later. It was small, cold. There were no flowers, no music, no celebration. Lyra wore the formal robes of her people. Doyon wore a simple black suit. They spoke the words that bound them together. They signed the documents that made it legal. When it was done, Doyon took her hand. His skin was warm against hers. Too warm, like he was running a fever, but his grip was gentle. "You have bought yourself an army," he said quietly. "I hope it is enough." Lyra looked at her new husband. This strange, soft-spoken man with his dark eyes and his too warm skin. She felt no love for him. She barely felt anything at all. He was a tool, a means to an end, nothing more. She did not know yet that she was wrong. She did not know that she had just married the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, but she would learn. The Velen flagship was called the Star Mother. It was the largest ship in what remained of the Velen fleet. 2,000 crew members lived and worked within its metal walls. Now it carried one more, human. The first human to leave Earth in 3,000 years. Lyra watched Doyon carefully during those first days. She told herself it was because he was her husband and she needed to understand him. But the truth was simpler. She was afraid of him. Not because he had done anything frightening, but because the elder's words still echoed in her mind. Humans are wrong, broken, dangerous beyond measure. At first, Doyon seemed perfectly normal, boring even. He was polite to everyone. He spoke softly. He asked questions about the ship and the crew and the war. He smiled at children when they stared at him. He ate his meals quietly and thanked the cooks. Then Lyra began to notice the strange things. The first strange thing was the sleeping. Velens slept in short bursts, perhaps an hour at a time, spread throughout the day. It was the same for most species, but Doyon slept differently. Every night, he would go to his quarters and lie down on his bed, and then he would not move for 7 or 8 hours straight. The first time Lyra saw this, she thought he was dead. She called the medical team. They rushed to his quarters with equipment and drugs, ready to save him. But when they arrived, Doyon simply opened his eyes and sat up. "Is something wrong?" he asked, blinking slowly. "You were not moving," Lyra said. Her voice was shaking. "For hours. You were not moving at all." Doyon looked confused for a moment. Then he laughed. It was a soft sound, gentle and warm. "I was sleeping," he said. "Humans sleep like this. We shut down for a while. Then we wake up and continue with our day." Tilted his head. "Do Valens not sleep this way?" Lyra did not answer. She was too busy trying to understand how any being could survive shutting down completely for hours at a time. It seemed impossible. It seemed terrifying. The second strange thing was the eating. Do-young could eat almost anything. The ship's cook, an old Velen named Grandmother Yuna, took this as a personal challenge. She began preparing stranger and stranger dishes, trying to find something the human could not consume. She failed. Do-young ate plants that were toxic to every other species on the ship. He ate fermented drinks that smelled like poison and burned the tongue. He ate something called kimchi that he had brought from Earth, and the smell alone made 3 crew members sick. He ate peppers that contained a chemical called capsaicin, a substance that caused pain in most living things. "Does it not hurt?" Lyra asked, watching him bite into a bright red pepper. "Yes," Do-young admitted. "It burns. But humans enjoy the burning. We call it spicy." He offered her the pepper. "Would you like to try?" Lyra declined. The third strange thing was the exercise. Every day, Do-young spent 2 hours doing physical training. He lifted heavy things. He ran in place. He did movements that bent his body in ways that looked painful. And when he was done, he was covered in sweat and breathing hard, his muscles shaking with exhaustion. Lyra asked the ship's doctor to examine him after one of these sessions. The doctor's report was disturbing. "His muscles are damaged," the doctor said. "Tiny tears throughout the tissue. His bones are stressed. His heart rate is elevated far beyond safe levels." The doctor paused. "By all medical standards, he has injured himself." "Should we stop him?" Lyra asked. "That is the strange part." The doctor's voice was quiet. "When I scanned him the next day, the damage was healed. Not just healed. His muscles were stronger than before. His bones were denser." The doctor looked at Lyra with something like fear in her eyes. Humans damage themselves on purpose. They tear their own bodies apart, and then they grow back stronger. This is how they improve. Lyra did not sleep well that night. But the strangest thing, the thing that truly frightened her, happened in the 3rd week. The Star Mother had stopped at a trading station to resupply. The crew was given a few hours of leave. Most of them used this time to rest or shop or simply breathe air. That did not smell like recycled ship atmosphere. Then a child went missing. Her name was Bora. She was 6 years old. The daughter of one of the ship's engineers. She had wandered away from her mother in the crowded station. By the time anyone noticed, she had been gone for an hour. The crew searched. The station security searched. But the station was vast and crowded and full of dark corners. Bora was small. She could be anywhere. Do-young did not wait for permission. He did not ask questions. He simply walked off the ship and began searching. He searched for 16 hours straight. He did not eat. He did not rest. He did not stop. Lyra sent crew members to check on him every few hours. Each time, they reported the same thing. The human was still moving. Still looking. Still going. He should have collapsed by now, the doctor said. No being can sustain that level of activity for so long without food or rest. His body should have failed hours ago. But Do-young did not collapse. He did not fail, and at the 16th hour, he found her. Bora had been taken by traffickers. They were a small group, 3 aliens who planned to sell her to the highest bidder. They had hidden her in the lower levels of the station in a room that was supposed to be secret. Do-young found them anyway. What happened next? Lyra only learned from station security reports. The traffickers were armed. Do-young was not. It did not matter. By the time security arrived, all 3 traffickers were dead and their ship was burning in the docking bay. Do-young walked out of the lower levels carrying Bora in his arms. She was asleep, her head resting against his shoulder. She was unharmed. She was safe. His clothes were torn. His knuckles were bloody. His face was calm. Lyra met him at the airlock. She stared at him, this quiet man who had killed 3 beings and burned a ship with his bare hands, and she did not know what to say. "What did you do?" she finally whispered. Do-young looked at her. His dark eyes were steady. There was no anger in them, no excitement, no regret. Just a simple, quiet certainty. "They took a child," he said. "They should not have done that." Carried Bora past Lyra and returned her to her weeping mother. Then he went to his quarters to sleep. That night, Lyra locked the door to her own quarters. She sat on her bed in the darkness and tried to understand what she had married. He was kind. He was gentle. He ate meals with the crew and played with the children and asked thoughtful questions about Velen culture. And he had killed 3 beings and walked away like it was nothing. The elder's words echoed in her mind again. Humans are not like other beings. They are wrong, broken, dangerous beyond measure. Lyra was beginning to understand, but she was not yet ready to admit what she was. Seeing she was not ready to admit that she had brought a monster onto her ship. A monster who slept 8 hours a night and ate poison for pleasure, and broke himself to grow stronger. A monster who would kill without hesitation and love without limit. A human. The human soldiers arrived on a cold morning. 30 days after Lyra's marriage. There were only 10,000 of them. The Velen fleet had over 2 million soldiers, and they were losing. 10,000 humans seemed like a joke. A cruel joke played by the universe on a dying people. Lyra stood at the viewport and watched. The human transport ships dock with the fleet. Beside her, Doyan was quiet. He had been quiet for days, ever since word came that his people were sending aid. 10,000, Lyra said. She tried to keep the disappointment out of her voice. She failed. The Keth have armies of billions. What can 10,000 humans do? Doyan did not answer right away. When he spoke, his voice was soft. You will see. The human soldiers were not what Lyra expected. They were young, most of them. They laughed and joked with each other as they boarded the Velen ships. They brought strange food and loud music and photographs of people they called family. They learned the names of the Velen soldiers within hours. They shared meals with them. They taught them human games and learned Velen songs. It was strange. It was almost sweet. Then the fighting began. The first battle took place over a moon called Dust. The Keth had a base there, supply station that fed their advance fleet. The plan was simple. Attack the base. Destroy the supplies. Retreat before reinforcements arrived. The Velen soldiers had fought battles like this before. They knew how it worked. You attacked. You took losses. You pulled back when the cost became too high. This was war. This was how it had always been. The humans did not follow this rule. Lyra watched from the command center as the battle unfolded. She saw the human soldiers charge into enemy fire without hesitation. She saw them take wounds that should have stopped them, and they kept moving. She saw them carry injured comrades on their backs while still shooting at the enemy. She saw them refuse to retreat even when ordered. They're going to die, Lyra whispered. All of them. Why are they not pulling back? Doyan stood beside her, watching the same screens. Because they have not finished yet. Finished what? The mission. His voice was simple, calm. Humans do not retreat until the mission is done. Or until we are dead. The base fell in 4 hours. The human casualties were heavy. Nearly 1,000 dead or wounded. But the base was destroyed. The Keth's supplies were gone. And the remaining humans were already asking when the next battle would be. Lyra did not understand. She could not understand. These soldiers had lost 1/10 of their number. By Velen standards, this was a disaster. By human standards, it was simply the cost of victory. The battles continued. Each one taught Lyra something new about humans. She learned about a medic named Sora. Sora was a small woman with short hair and quick hands. During the battle for the mining colony, a Velen soldier named Junsu was hit by enemy fire. The wound was bad. Very bad. The other medics said he would die within the hour. There was nothing to be done. Sora did not accept this. She worked on Junsu for 9 hours straight. She did not eat. She did not rest. She did not stop, even when her commanding officer ordered her to move on to other patients. She simply kept working, her hands steady and her eyes focused. While Junsu's life slipped away, drop by drop at the 9th hour, his bleeding stopped. His heart stabilized. He lived so, collapsed from exhaustion. She was unconscious for 12 hours. When she woke up, she asked about Junsu, when she learned he was alive. She smiled and asked when she could return to duty. She should be dead, the Velen medical chief told Lyra. Her body was running on nothing. Her brain was starving for rest. No being should be able to function at that level for so long. The chief shook her head, but she refused to stop. She simply refused. And somehow, her body obeyed. Lyra learned about a sniper named Minho during the siege of Station 12. The Keth commander was hidden in a bunker, directing the enemy forces. He was protected by walls of metal and shields of energy. He was untouchable. Minho did not accept this. He crawled into a crater 2 kilometers from the bunker. He lay there for 4 days. For days without moving, without eating more than small bites of dried food, without sleeping more than a few minutes at a time. He lay in the cold and the dark and the silence, waiting for one moment. One chance. On the 4th day, the Keth commander stepped outside for exactly 3 seconds. Minho took the shot. The commander fell. When they pulled Minho out of the crater, his body was nearly frozen. His muscles were cramped so badly he could not walk. His eyes were damaged from staring through his scope for so long. But he was smiling. "Got him," he whispered. And then he passed out. The Keth began to panic. Their reports, which Velen intelligence intercepted, spoke of humans in terrified tones. They called them the ones who do not die. They called them the broken ones. They called them names that had no translation. Names that meant something like nightmare and curse and devil. The Keth Dominion had conquered 100 species. They had never met anything like humans. They had never met beings who formed bonds with strangers in hours. Who fought for people they barely knew as if they were family. Who treated every battle as personal. Who kept coming no matter how many of them fell. The war turned. The Velen fleet began winning battles. Small victories at first, then larger ones. The Keth advance slowed, stopped, began to reverse. Lyra should have been happy. She should have been celebrating. But she could not stop watching the humans. Could not stop trying to understand them. And then came the battle that changed everything. The Keth Dominion gathered their remaining fleet for one massive assault. They would crush the Velens in a single blow and end the war forever. Their ships numbered in the thousands. Their soldiers numbered in the millions. Duhayan studied the reports and made a decision. He would lead a small force directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. A suicide mission. A distraction that would allow the main Velen forces to strike from behind. Lyra found him in his quarters, preparing for the mission. She grabbed his arm with all 4 of her hands. "You will die," she said. "This plan is madness. You will die." Duyan looked at her. His dark eyes were calm, warm. There was no fear in them, maybe he said. "But your people will live. I do not want you to die." The words came out before Lyra could stop them. She was surprised to realize she meant them. Somewhere in the past weeks, this strange human had become something more than a political tool. She was not sure what, but she knew she did not want to lose him. Doyan took her hands in his. His skin was warm against hers. Too warm, like always. "You married me to save your people," he said softly. "Did you think I would do less than give everything I have?" He kissed her forehead. It was gentle. It was brief. And then he was gone. Lyra watched from the command center as Doyan's small fleet flew into the heart of the Keth Armada. She watched the explosions bloom like flowers in the darkness. She watched the enemy ships turn to face this new threat, their formation breaking, and then she gave the order. The Velen fleet attacked. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Keth Armada was shattered. Their fleet was destroyed. Their remaining leaders were dead or captured, and Doyan was alive. His ship was broken. His crew was wounded. He had burns on his arms and blood on his face. But he was alive. Lyra was waiting when they pulled him from the wreckage. She did not say anything. She simply held him, all 4 arms wrapped around his battered body, and did not let go. The Keth Dominion requested a ceasefire the next day. The war was over. The ceasefire brought peace. It should have brought relief. But Lyra found herself unable to rest. She lay awake in her quarters at night, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning with questions she could not answer. She had watched Do-Yan for months now. She had seen him do impossible things. She had seen him fight like a demon and love like a saint. She had seen him burn enemy ships and plant flowers on graves. She had seen him kill without hesitation and weep over fallen soldiers. He was kind. He was terrifying. He was gentle. He was dangerous. He was human, and she still did not understand. Why the galaxy feared his species so much, the question burned in her mind like a fire that would not go out. The elder had spoken of the before times, of terrible things that made humans forbidden, but he had not explained. Nobody had explained. The truth was hidden behind 3,000 years of silence. Lyra needed to know. She could not live with this man, could not love this man, without understanding what he truly was. So one night, she asked him. They were sitting together in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The war was over. The peace was holding. For the first time in months, there was nothing to do but exist. To breathe. To be. Do-Yan was quiet beside her. He was often quiet. But his silence was never empty. It was full of something. Thoughts, maybe, memories, things he did not say out loud. Tell me, Lyra said. Her voice was soft. Tell me why humans are forbidden. Tell me what happened 3,000 years ago. He looked out at the stars, his dark eyes reflecting their light. Are you sure you want to know? He asked. Yes. He was quiet for another long moment. Then he began to speak. 3,000 years ago, humans were new to the galaxy. We had just learned to travel between stars. We were young, curious, excited to meet other species, to learn about the universe. His voice was distant, like he was reciting a story from a very old book. And we did meet other species. Many of them. But one species was special to us, the Sorin. Lyra had heard this name before. In old records, in ancient histories, a species that had once existed and no longer did. The Sorin were gentle, Do-Yan continued. They were peaceful. They had no weapons, no armies. They survived by helping others. They shared their technology, their medicine, their knowledge. They asked for nothing in return. He paused. They found humanity when we were still learning to walk among the stars. They welcomed us. They taught us. They protected us. What happened to them? Lyra asked. Do-Yan's jaw tightened. The other species of the galaxy did not like humans. We were strange to them, unsettling. We bonded with things too easily. We refused to give up when we should have surrendered. We loved too deeply and fought too hard and never ever forgot. He took a breath. The Galactic Council decided we were a threat. They decided to destroy us before we could grow too strong. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. What did they do? They could not attack Earth directly. We were too well protected by then. So they attacked the Sorin instead. Do-Yan's voice was flat. Empty. The Sorin had no weapons, no defenses, and they were our closest allies. The Council knew that if they destroyed the Sorin, humanity would be alone, vulnerable. Now the Council ordered the extermination of an entire species just to hurt humans. Not the entire Council, a coalition within it. 12 species, working together in secret. They attacked the Sorin homeworld without warning. They killed everyone. Every man. Every woman. Every child. Do-Yan's hands were clenched in his lap. The Sorin had done nothing wrong. They were kind. They were innocent. And they were killed because they loved us. Lyra did not know what to say. The horror of it was too vast, too terrible. What did humans do? She finally whispered. Do-Yan looked at her. His eyes were dark, bottomless, full of something ancient and cold. We did what humans do, he said. We loved the Sorin, we mourned them, and then we made the ones responsible pay. He told her the rest. He told her about the 200 years that followed, how humanity had tracked down every species that had been part of the coalition. Not with grand fleets or massive armies. Humans were still too few for that. Instead, they used patience, precision, time. They destabilized economies. They assassinated leaders. They turned allies against each other. They found every weakness, every crack, every secret, and they used them all. One by one, the 12 species fell. Some were destroyed completely. Others simply collapsed into chaos and never recovered. We did not want to conquer, Doyen said. We did not want power or territory or wealth. We only wanted one thing: justice, for the Soren, for the people we loved who were taken from us. He paused, and we did not stop until we had it. Lyra was shaking. She did not realize it until she looked down at her hands. 200 years, she said. You fought for 200 years. For revenge? Not revenge, Doyen corrected softly. Justice. There is a difference, is there? Revenge is hot. It burns out quickly. Justice is cold. It lasts forever. He looked out at the stars again. The galaxy did not quarantine us because we are dangerous. They quarantined us because they finally understood something. When you become a human's enemy, we will never stop. We will never forget. We will follow you across the universe and through the centuries until justice is done, no matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs. Lyra thought about the trafficking ring that had taken young Bora. She thought about how Doyen had hunted them for 16 hours and killed them without hesitation. But that is only half the truth, Doyen continued. The galaxy also learned something else about humans, something that scared them even more than our persistence. He turned to look at her. His eyes were warm now, tender. The cold had melted away, replaced by something gentle. If you become a human's family, we will do the same thing. We will follow you across the universe and through the centuries. We will fight for you and bleed for you and die for you. We will burn stars to keep you safe. He reached out and touched her face with one warm hand. The galaxy is not afraid of human hatred. They are afraid of human love. Because once we love something, we never let go. Lyra felt tears streaming down her cheeks. She did not know when she had started crying. Is that what I am to you? She asked. Family. Doyen smiled. It was the same small smile he had given her on their wedding day. But now, she understood what was behind it. You married me to save your people, he said. You made me part of your family. Did you think that meant nothing to me? He wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. You are mine now, Lyra. Your people are mine. And I will protect you with everything I have for as long as I live. Lyra understood now. She finally understood. Humans were not monsters. They were not evil. They were simply beings who loved with a depth and a permanence that other species could not comprehend. The galaxy had locked them away, not because they feared what humans would destroy. They feared what humans would protect. Lyra leaned forward and kissed her husband. Her strange, impossible, terrifying, wonderful husband. And she made a decision. She would never let him go. She would never let any of them go. The humans were hers now, and that meant something. Something powerful. Something eternal. Something dangerous. She did not care. She was learning to love like a human, and she would never stop. The peace treaty was signed on a station that floated between the stars. It was neutral ground, chosen by the Galactic Council. Thousands of beings had gathered to witness the moment. The war between the Velen Empire and the Keth Dominion was officially ending. The killing was done. The future could begin. Lyra stood at the center of it all. She was no longer the desperate princess who had begged for help in the council chamber. She was the empress now. Her mother had died in the war, along with her father and 3 of her sisters. She was the last of the royal line. The weight of her people rested on her shoulders, but she was not alone. Doyen stood beside her. He wore the formal black suit of a human diplomat. His dark hair was combed neatly. His dark eyes were calm. He looked exactly like he had on their wedding day. Quiet, polite, ordinary. The Keth representatives approached the signing table. They were tall, with gray skin and sharp teeth and eyes that had once looked upon the Valens as prey. Now those eyes held something different. fear, respect, the knowledge that they had lost not just a war, but something deeper. The Keth general placed his mark on the treaty. Lyra placed hers. It was done. Peace was official. The crowd began to applaud. Diplomats congratulated each other. Reporters recorded the moment for history. Somewhere, musicians began to play. But Lyra was watching the back of the room, where the rest of the humans had gathered. There were more of them now. Not just the 10,000 soldiers who had come to fight. More had arrived in the final weeks of the war. Engineers, doctors, teachers, farmers, ordinary people who wanted to help. Ordinary people who had heard that their species had been allowed to leave Earth again, and who had come running to see the stars. They stood together in a group, watching the ceremony. They were smiling. Some were crying. Some were holding hands. Sora was there, the medic who had worked for 9 hours to save a dying soldier. She was talking with a group of Velen nurses, teaching them new techniques she had learned in her training. Her hands moved quickly as she explained, and the Velens nodded along, eager to learn. Minho was there, the sniper who had waited for days for a single shot. He was sitting with a group of Velen children, showing them photographs from Earth. The children gasped at pictures of mountains and oceans and forests. They asked questions in their high, excited voices. Minho answered each one with patience. Hajun was there, an engineer who had arrived just last week. He was teaching a young Velen girl how to throw something called a ball. The girl laughed as she caught it, clumsy with her forearms but determined to learn. This was what humans did. They connected. They bonded. They made family out of strangers, and that was why the Galactic Council was watching with such worried eyes. The elder approached Lyra after the ceremony. He was ancient and fragile, leaning on a staff made of some material she did not recognize. His eyes were old and tired and full of knowledge. "You have done something remarkable," he said. His voice was quiet, meant only for her. "You have brought humans back into the galaxy. You have made them part of your empire." He paused. "I wonder if you understand what you have truly done." Lyra met his gaze. "I have saved my people." The elder nodded slowly. "And you have also changed the galaxy forever. Humans do not remain separate. They do not stay strangers. Given time, they will bond with everyone they meet. They will become family to species across the stars. And once that happens," he shook his head, "there will be no going back." "Is that such a terrible thing?" The elder was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know," he finally admitted. "Humans are terrifying. Their love is a force that conquers. Their loyalty is a weapon that never stops. To be bonded to a human is to be changed forever." He looked at Doyen, who was speaking with a group of diplomats nearby. "But perhaps that change is not always bad. Perhaps the galaxy needed humans. Perhaps we locked them away because we were afraid to become what they could make us." "And what is that?" Lyra asked. The elder smiled. It was a small, sad smile. A family. He turned and walked away, leaving Lyra alone with her thoughts. The celebration continued around her. Music played. Food was served. Beings from 100 different worlds mingled and talked and laughed together. For this one moment, there was no war, no fear, no hatred. Just people celebrating peace. Lyra found Do-Yan at the edge of the crowd. He was watching the celebration with a small smile on his face. She took his hand and he turned to look at her. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Marrying me?" Lyra thought about everything that had happened. The desperate bargain she had made. The strange creature she had invited into her life. The horror she had felt when she first understood what humans were capable of. The love she had found when she finally understood why. "No," she said. "I only regret not understanding sooner." Doyan squeezed her hand. His skin was warm against hers. Always warm. She had learned that this was because human blood ran hot, heated by hearts that beat faster than any other species. She had learned that humans were always warm because they were always burning, always alive, always moving forward. "What happens now?" he asked. Lyra looked out at the crowd. She saw Velens talking with humans. She saw Keth speaking cautiously with former enemies. She saw the beginning of something new. Now we build, she said. We rebuild my empire. We rebuild the worlds that were destroyed. And we do it together. Humans and Valens. Side by side, the galaxy will fear that. Let them. It was a soft sound, warm and real. You are learning to think like a human, maybe, Lyra smiled. Or maybe I am learning what the galaxy forgot. That being feared is not always a bad thing. Not when the ones who fear you are the ones who would do harm. They stood together in silence for a while, watching the celebration. Then Doyon spoke again. I want to show you something. He led her through the crowd, past the diplomats and the reporters and the celebrating beings. They walked through hallways and corridors until they reached a small garden at the heart of the station. It was quiet here, peaceful, full of green plants and soft light. In the center of the garden, someone had placed a small statue. It was simple, just a figure with outstretched hands. But carved into the base were words in a language Lyra did not recognize. What does it say? She asked. For the Soren Doyon translated, gone but not forgotten, loved forever. He touched the statue gently. Humans built this. We placed it here before the ceremony, so that they could be part of the peace. Lyra felt her eyes fill with tears. You never forget. Never. Doyon looked at her. And we never will. The Soren are part of us now. They always will be, just as you are part of us. Just as your people are part of us. He took her hand again. This is what it means to be loved by a human, Lyra. You become part of our story, and our story never ends. Lyra looked at the statue, and at the man beside her, and at the future stretching out before them. The galaxy would fear this, she knew. They would fear what humans were building, the connections they were forming, the family they were creating across the stars. But the Velens were not afraid. They had learned the truth about humans. They had learned that the most dangerous thing in the galaxy was also the most beautiful, human love, and they had chosen to be part of it. Lyra squeezed her husband's. Handon looked up at the stars. Take me home, she said, and Doyon smiled. Warm and bright and full of everything she had learned to love about his impossible species. Wherever you are, he said, that is home.